Hello everyone, Barub here. I've said repeatedly over the past couple of months that parent building is one of the most important things that you need to be doing in Uma Musume. It is the only method that does not require credit card or carrots to progress the power level of your account and can be done by pretty much everyone who has a baseline level of SR cards that would cause you to think about becoming competitive. And now, with the release of Unity 2.0, it is the best time of pretty much ever to start to go and build your parents because it is faster and simpler and more powerful than ever to do so that you can go and build better aces in the future. This is the most requested topic that I have ever had on this channel. And this is not the comprehensive parenting guide. The truth of the matter is that the rabbit hole for parenting is the most deep rabbit hole in this game. If I were to go and make a full comprehensive parent guide, it would be multiple hours of recording and more importantly, multiple months worth of prep work. And while that may be in the future, I think that you guys need to be making parents now. This is more akin to an emergency guide like I would do for a CM. I think you need to be making parents. I think if you're not building parents, you're going to be hamstringing yourself for the next CM and more importantly for the entire next scenario. And so this is how to get started building parents. And this is how I have been building parents in Unity 2.0. Two things. One, I know people are going to talk about Trackblazer parents. People are going to talk about URA parents. We are discussing Unity because I think it is the easiest entry point and the fastest method of building parents. This is an emergency guide. I'm not going to be going and delving into the deep stuff. I will be building probably more parent videos in the future. So let's begin and talk about parents. The most important thing is your borrow. You have 5 borrows per day for 10 borrows total, technically, if you count the Spark rerolls. And you can find these parents on database websites like uma.moe or Chronogenesis, and there's fields to filter these out. And what I would suggest is grab these skills that I have pretty much been saying are close to must includes in the various different champions meeting guides. To put it explicitly, you need to be using the fact that other people have been parent building to your advantage by incorporating those good skills from their parents onto your parents. And for each of the roles, here is just a rudimentary list that I use to search when I'm looking at the 4 different roles. To get you started, frontrunners have it the hardest with Groundwork and Ignite Spirit Wit. Now you can get Burning Spirit Wit in Unity Cup, so it's really easy to go and actually start incorporating this on your parents, but you want this on every parent and grandparent so that it sparks the most often. There's a bunch of preferred white factors that you would do in the filter websites, on the database websites rather. They will basically order them in order of the number of hits that are on this preferred white factor list. But for fronts, Groundwork, Ignite, Spirit Wit, one of either prudent positioning or dodging danger, and then from there it's usually the good greens that you want, like right-handed, left-handed, stuff that is relatively easy to actually go and proc your Groundwork from. For pace chasers, they generally want Umastand and they like Groundwork as well, and they prefer a lot of mid-race skills. Of course, frontrunners love these mid-race skills too. It's just they're more concerned because they have much more things that they need to grab with. Late surgers like Umastand and closers love Umastand, and these are all musts to have, I would say, and they prefer those mid-race speed skills along with some of the new URA racing spirits, but consider these secondary to the standard core skills that you have because the core skills are going to be useful on more than just the one role that you have and more than just the one champions meeting that you're going to do. The purpose of this is we're trying to build generally good parents that we can then go and specialize later for very different CMs or various different roles. So I would suggest that you need to have the required skills on every parent because that increases the chance that you actually spark that. So if you're a late surger player, get a parent that has Umastand on both grandparents as well as the parent that you are going to borrow. For frontrunners, make sure that Groundwork is on the parent and grandparent of each one that you borrow. Then at that point, try to make sure that they are actually a Unity 2.0 or Trackblazer parent that actually has won most of the G1s. You can always fix race matching later, but this will increase the affinity, which will help your spark chance, which will help you get the skills, which will help you go and spark those skills in the future. Don't think too hard on this. It does not have to be 100%, but try to get the ones to make sure that the parents that you're borrowing are actually running G1 races so that you have good affinity. That increases the affinity or the spark chance. We're not going to get into that, but just know that that is a very good thing to do as well. SS is also quite good because you will find that you get more 2-star and 3-star whites. I would also suggest these white skills to also go and be at least 2-star because you want to spark these ones on your actual UMA best as possible so that you can continue the loop. I'm talking about a lot about borrows because it's possibly the most important thing. You need to start with basically a good groundwork, no pun intended. The deck itself. In Unity Cup, when everyone started, 6-wit deck was what people were running because the couple things. First of all, highest rating possible. You want to hit SS. Basically, you can put wit up to 1800. You hit SS. You hit really, really high stats. And then also the wit button has a higher number of skill points gained. The problem with this deck is, one, it's very, very finicky to win races. You need things to actually proc properly, and you don't actually have good sparks yet because we're just starting right out. It's also very difficult to generate power, guts, and stamina. And I won't get into it too much, but you kind of want at least 600 in these to make sure your blue spark isn't completely dead. If you've ever gotten a 1-star guts, it's most likely because your gut stat is below 600. And while you can't necessarily grab it at the earliest convenience now, in the future, you want to go and try to get 600 in all of it. This strategy works very well if you have a lot of power sparks because that will help you win the races. But I find it to be rather finicky, and even though there's 6 wit cards, it's just really frustrating when they don't actually go to the wit. I will give a shout out to Dragon Slayer Bond. He's been a longtime viewer of the channel, and he has his own YouTube channel talking about this strategy. This is more for rating maxing, which is another little fun thing that you can do with it, which is useful for parenting, but I find that this strategy to be a little too volatile for consistent, basically early game parent runs to get you started. So what I did was I added a speed card to this. For me, it was Kittison Black, and the pros to this is now it removes the fact that I can't really generate the speed and power required to win those early races without sparks. And it also removes the fact that you probably wouldn't hit 600 without it, 600 power without it. So now I don't have as many issues. Only issues with this particular deck is that it's really hard to generate stamina and guts. Pretty much everything else about it is kind of just on rails. I can win anything that I want. I just focus on the speed button when Kittison's on speed, and I have enough speed and power to go and win the races as consistently as possible. It's just my stamina and guts are not hitting 600, and especially stamina is really important because you like stamina sparks. So what did I do? I added a stamina card. Well, I need stamina and guts. I press the stamina button and I get stamina and guts. And you can do this with Rico. It's really, really fun because with Rico, you just press the button whenever you have a bad training and you go from there. And the pros with this is that it removes the generate stamina and guts. And yes, you're losing wit and you're losing a tiny bit of skill points because you're pressing less wit taps, but you're hitting your blue sparks in this deck particular. And this is the final deck that I'm running right now. I did use Rico with it. This is the final deck here. Right there. Nope, that's it. We are talking right here. That is the final deck that I did. I will explain this because I forgot to mention that you can go, instead of this stamina, replace it with a power card or a guts card. The problem with these is that if you replace it with a power card, you have to think and actually actively go and generate guts. And if you replace it with a guts card, you have to actively generate stamina because power button trains stamina and guts button trains everything except stamina. So that is the only problem with a power or a guts card, although these are very good strategies because you really only have one bad blue chance, which only happens 20% of the time. I have done, and because this deck is so easy to actually go and complete, I added Throne to it, and the reason is it just gives me a lot more early speed. It gives me a ton more wit. It's basically a 3/4 wit card and a 3/4 speed card. And it also gives me a ton of skill points to loop more skills because my parents are good. And I think if you find that you go and grab a bunch, if you grab like a stam card and you get used to this type of deck, you're going to find it's really simple that you can kind of even lower some of the wit just slightly because Throne's still pretty much a wit card, and grab a ton more skill points to go and loop more good skills. So this is the final iteration of my deck. I think this is a good version of the SR. I'll leave this up while I grab a drink. for the SR version, because you probably don't have as many cards that can generate wit as powerfully and as speed as powerfully, I think a very comfortable deck is running 2 speed, 3 wit, and 1 flex. I prefer running a stamina card. You can try it with a stamina card. Man Cafe is probably the best for this because it just has really great stamina output. Or you can grab a power card. Obviously, if you have any of the good power cards or SSR cards, slot them in one at a time. I find Kittison to be one of the most consistent speed cards because you want early speed, so you want Kittison to be on speed for you to win races. Otherwise, another thing you can think about is either borrowing or using a card which has a guaranteed require skilled, like Groundwork or like Umastan. These are the 4 cards on the screen that I found: 3 power and 1 guts, the Sakura Bakshino guts, or the Smart Falcon power for Groundwork. And I also believe you get like center stage or something. I don't remember. Oh no, that's the Kawakami Princess card gives you center stage. Never mind. Otherwise, King Halo Power or Agnes Digital Power. This is actually a really good power card in general, and it gives you Umastan as well. This is good to start because you don't have high affinity parents that you're using to give you the Umastan or the Groundwork that you need to continue the chain over and over and over again. So using and replacing one of these with one of the guaranteed cards, guaranteed spark chances, will make it so every run is essentially a hit to start. The final goal that I go for is 1200 wit plus 600 stamina. I do 600 guts and 600 power and as much speed as possible over 600. This gives me a good array of blue sparks. Realistically, with multiple speed cards or with a singular speed card and a bunch of wit cards, you should be topping out around 1000 to 1100 speed. And by getting your speed and your wit very, very high, you should have a great chance of hitting SS. But at the start, it's not as important to hit SS. Just know that you have a higher chance of hitting 2 and 3 star white sparks if you are able to reach SS rank. Now, the thing is that if there is one stat you want to give up, it is probably guts. I like stam sparks, I like power sparks. Try to get these 2 at 600 and then try to pump your speed and wit as high as possible to go and hit SS. Notably, remember rating, the higher it goes, the more important it is. 1100 to 1200 is worth like 3 times as much as 600 to 700. And the fact we can go to 13, 14, 1500 wit is really, really nice for rating maxing. But remember, you'll get the feel of it in what actually is required for SS. But generally, if your speed and wit are very close to 1200 with relatively close to 600 stats, you should be fine hitting SS. Again, try to hit that 600 threshold. That is what increases your blue sparks. In the actual run, I focus on speed and power early. I try to tap Kittison when she's on speed or power just so that I have roughly 300 to 400 speed and power to win these early G1 races. You're really only going and running the G1 races and you're trying to train your stats up as high as possible. The deck that I kind of put has a lot of skill bonus cards into it, so training gives you most of the skill points required, and I usually end around 2900 to 3000 skill points. If you are having trouble winning races and you're finding whatever UMA that you're running has trouble winning races, there's 3 things that you can do. First of all, the one that I suggest almost everyone to do is grab your green speed and power skills because they help you out early game. Your right-handeds, your left-handeds, even your fall runners for the first G1 races, that helps you a lot. Your lone wolves will work as well. You can also grab an Excel early, your Slick Surge for late surgers, your Nimble Navigator if it appears early. You can also grab something like a Homestretch Haste to basically give you that late race speed if you are lacking in speed. You will get the feel for this as time goes on. And in Unity, you don't get any actual clocks. So you will be dropping some G1s and just expect that, but this is a good way to mitigate that point. It's more important to make sure you win the G1s than the actual fact that you're losing a skill point or 2. It's like 10 skill points if you were to get a hint later on it. You don't do this on every single skill. You grab just 1 or 2 of each of these and you usually will be fine enough in the early game. On the run itself, it's very important you race every G1 that you have aptitude for. Note that Dirt C counts as aptitude. Distance C, it's going to be very difficult to win, but if you have enough speed, especially late game, you usually will still win. Distance B is much preferred. Distance A is much, much preferred, but we take what we can get. But most of the parents that you should be using to start will have mile and median aptitude A and possibly some level of long or dirt ones to do to loop further races. Don't duplicate any races. Running the Queen Elizabeth Cup twice does not actually give you any bonus affinity, so you would want to swap that out for the JBC Classic if you have dirt aptitude. The same thing happens with Mile CH and the Fall Mile and the Japan Cup. Make sure to swap it if you can, and remember that certain UMAs have guaranteed gold races, so try to do both of them, but sometimes you will just drop a race there as well. I would go and prioritize your purple burst first. They increase your training so much that they kind of even out in value even if they're on a bad stat. Then prioritize good blue bursts for the hints themselves on relevant stats like speed, power, or if you need stamina or guts, you put them on the stamina and guts to try to hit 600. And then after that, prioritize the best tap that gives you the most stats. Or if you're low on energy, of course, wit taps are also a priority because that is what gives you your rating by pumping that wit stat up to 1200 plus. Remember, the goal is to get to 1200 plus wit so that your rating is high enough to hit that SS. Grab a recovery before Tenno Show Spring if you're running a long career and you are effectively long looping. If you lose it, it's not the end of the world. It's just a singular race, but that is an option if you're in that 300 to 400 stamina range and the Tenno Show Spring happens and you actually want to race it for that extra 3 affinity. Remember that you have spark rerolls. I think that on every borrow you should pretty much be spark rerolling. Even if it costs you carrots, it's a very minor thing. You will find that you get carrots in career. I know it's tough because there's things that you could be running carrots on for that. I think the spark reroll when you're first getting started, you should be using it if you have the skill, your required skills. So if it's an active run, as I call it, you have your Umastan or you have your groundwork, I would spark reroll and try to get a good baseline parent, because the truth of the matter is you don't really need a bunch of these. Once you go and you hit once, you just basically loop it over and over again in the process. If you borrow something really, really, really good, and you go and you hit it all, like this is a Digiton that has that Umastan that I was looking for, you basically use that parent on a different horse. So I use this Digiton with my original borrow, and then I hit a El Condor Pasa, and now all of a sudden that I have Umas that I am completely where do I put it? I'm completely independent at this point if I need to be, right? So I use literally any parent that I had with Umastan so that it would become on the grandparent on my side. This would also be groundwork with front runners, and I borrowed one that had it in all of the different ones, so double grandparent and parent. And then these two became the grandparents on my Digiton that I hit. I then used this Digiton with my borrow, and I made an El Condor Pasa, and I started just running Pasa runs until I actually hit as well. And at that point, I have 2 parents that I can use without borrows as well. This is not a borrow. These are both on my account that I can use for whatever purpose that I want. I can continue the loop and make an Oguri Cap. I can go and run a Marzensky, let's say, if I want to go and start race matching. Or if I want to make some sprints, I could run something like a Taiki Shuttle. And at this point, yes, you try to match as many races as possible between the 3 Umas that you have. It's not 100% required, but what I have been doing is I started with my Digiton. She does not have long aptitude, so I lost the Rimakina in the Tenno Show Spring. I ran this crown route with the El Condor Pasa, and the original Oguri Cap was crown route for that one. Now, for the Tiara route, basically I had an Oguri Cap with a Tiara route instead of a crown route. I did it with my Tiara on my Digiton, and then I ran Tiara on El Condor Pasa, which would lose the Derby because she's forced to do Derby, but that is just 3 affinity, and now I have a Tiara loop to run on stuff like Dober as well. You will fix race matching later. You shouldn't 100% just like only care about getting 100% of the races. Honestly, the white sparks are much more important than the 3 to 6 to 12 affinity that you're losing, because eventually, Trackblazer will be existing, and you can always race match later in Trackblazer or on a run that high rolls in Unity that goes and wins every single possible races. But you do want to win as many races as possible at this point. Instead of just building your sprint parents, build like an ace for the CM sprint. Build your Taiki Shuttle. It's the step 3 of the anti-frustration plan at the moment, but Taiki Shuttle is a primary borrow. Nishino Flower works as well for the sprint CM for pace chasers. Let's say you built these general parents, you use those 2 as a grandparent on a Taiki, and then you go and you build the rest of your CM aces, because now you have a Taiki to go and loop onto other aces to use with it. That's kind of the process. We'll go more into depth later. I know this has been sort of all over the place. This is an emergency guide First and foremost, there are problems and inefficiencies not mentioned on this guide. It will get you about 80 to 85% there, and I hope that this has helped you at least start thinking about building parent building, because I don't think that it is not that complicated to be at this level. It gets really complicated the more you look into it, and if I was rambling the whole time, which I kind of was, it's because I am actively trying to shut off parts of my thinking, should not try to over explain things, because every single thing that you may ask, and you can ask these questions in the comment, has a much deeper answer than you are expecting. So I hope that you guys have good luck building your parents. I think that you should be building your parents. Take care, everyone. Burb out.